Glad to have you with us on the Jim Bohannon Show at 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626. In this portion of the program, I want to talk a little bit about a very special program, empowering combat veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder to regain their freedom and independence is a very critical and important job in this new age of heavy combat against terrorism. So how do you do that? Well, in some cases, they have been partnered with professionally trained and specially matched service dogs at no charge. Northwest Battle Buddies is the group that we're talking about here, and let's learn a little bit about just what it is they do.
This is a story about a carefree puppy named Timber and Shanda Taylor Boyd, a retired Army officer. Their lives were brought together because of the Vancouver-based nonprofit Northwest Battle Buddies.
You know, when I started this organization, I just wanted to give a dog to a veteran, and I had no idea the ripple effect it would have on the lives that it would touch.
Timber's first assignment, to be a puppy and grow up in a foster home. Relying on 20 years of training dogs,
Back.
Shannon knows it takes time, patience, and lots of love to properly train a service dog.
We always want to end on a positive. It's really an awesome thing when you see where they come from and what we can create, because dogs really are only what we create them to be.
Shanda Taylor Boyd, a retired Army officer, suffered a traumatic brain injury in an auto accident. An advocate for veterans with PTSD, she tells all who will listen about the importance of having a service dog. She puts it this way.
Because they impact our lives. Like, sometimes it's not even, we don't even live from, like, people like take it day by day. Many veterans, we have to take it not even hour by hour or minute by minute, but as a good friend said, breath by breath.
There, something for you to think about as we will talk in this portion of the program with the president and founder of Northwest Battle Buddies, Shannon Walker. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you, and I'm intrigued by this whole process. What a wonderful notion this is. Again, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, it's reached the point now where we need to only refer to the initials. Pretty much people know what we're talking about. Has become a very serious problem for the members of our military. And what a simple and straightforward solution. Where did you, again, just tell us the genesis of Northwest Battle Buddies?
Of how Northwest Battle Buddies started. Well, I've been a professional dog trainer for 20 years, and before that, I was raised by my father, Glenn Walker, who was a Korean War veteran, and he taught me that when you're in the presence of a veteran, you're in the presence of a hero, even though he never considered himself one. And so being a professional dog trainer for 20 years and having that belief system, when a veteran walked through my for-profit business doors, he wanted his personal dog to be trained as his service dog for PTSD. And I had trained dogs, I had trained service dogs before for people, but never one for a soldier with PTSD. So I assessed his dog. She had a nice temperament, nothing obedience wouldn't fix as far as being his service dog, found out what his needs were, went through many months of training with the dog, and through the process of working with him, I saw him change through his training with his dog and us together, learning how to navigate life with her. I learned about his personal story. I learned about the personal trauma he had gone through, and I also learned about his buddies since he had gotten home from combat who had committed suicide on American soil. And I also learned about the suicide rate of 22 veterans a day. And I was so alarmed by it, I was so bothered by it, that helping him was truly an honor. And when I did help him and I finished with his dog, I truly felt like I had made the difference in somebody's life, significant difference in somebody's life. And he was heavily involved in the VA. And so when he would then take his dog, Sammy, to the VA after we had trained her to be a service dog, his buddies and the people a part of in his therapy group came to my business looking for help. Well, I didn't have dogs to give him. I didn't have a way to help him. So in my simple-minded thinking, I thought, I can just adopt dogs out of shelters that are young and of temperament. I can certainly train them, and then I can gift them to these American heroes who deserve it. And in that simple-minded thinking, I thought I'd just start a 501c3. People will pay for it, and it would be easy. My father always said, you don't know what you don't know, and thank God I didn't know what I didn't know. I just had that desire, but that is how Northwest Battle Buddies was born. So
are you saying that if you had known... Are you saying that if you had known all that you know now, that you would maybe not have even bothered to start this?
No, I wouldn't say that. That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. But I will say this. You know, when I started Northwest Battle Buddies, I just had a straight-up simple desire to give back to our American heroes. That's what it was. And it is a lot harder than I ever dreamed. It's a lot bigger process than I ever imagined. But at the same time, my dad didn't raise a quitter, and you know, what we do is very, very important. So we do rise to the challenge, and we just are doing, you know, turning out phenomenal dogs for these people. But it is difficult trying to raise money, running a 501c3. You know, we're learning every day, but it's changed. You know, in 4 years, we have paired 32 service dogs with 32 veterans, and they're just living life wonderfully.
What a wonderful story, and we will continue it in just a moment with a woman with a vision, Shannon Walker. She is the president and founder of Northwest Battle Buddies, online at their name, northwestbattlebuddies.org. I'll repeat that, northwestbattlebuddies.org. They're also on Facebook. What a wonderful thing to think about as we wrap up this Memorial Day weekend, and we'll continue to think about it in just a moment. Welcome back to the Jim Bohannon Show, and our guest, the president and founder of NorthwestBattleBuddies.org. I dare you to go to the website and not be utterly taken with the wonderful photographs. NorthwestBattleBuddies.org. Shannon Walker, our guest. Now, you just started this, I guess, in January, right?
January of 2011.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. You started in January of 2011. All right. Very good. Now then, you've got a waiting list, I guess, of people who would like to get a battle buddy, right? Is there? There must be some kind of screening process. So what is involved?
Oh, definitely. There definitely is a screening process. It starts with an application that people can find online, but it's combat veteran. They need to have an honorable discharge, stable housing, stable income. Letters of recommendation and things like that. But there is a screening process, because not only do we want to give to everybody that is in need, however, they have to have a lifestyle that does support living with a dog, 24/7, and being able to fulfill the responsibility to the service dogs that we are providing. And not only that, just to make sure that it really is what they need in their life. So there is, that's where the process starts. And then going from there, the veterans work with us for about 2 months of the training process. Each dog goes through about 350 hours of training, which spans out to about 7 months. Those last 2 months, we actually work with the teams. The veterans are paired with their dogs, and they work with us every week, going out and learning how to navigate life with their dog, learning about the access laws, making sure that it's the right match. And they just do exceptionally well. They really do.
Are these dogs considered service dogs under the legal definition, like, for example, seeing eye dogs for the blind and this sort of thing? In other words, they are essentially companion animals, I suppose, in one very specific, of course, circumstance, that of PTSD. But would they qualify, for example, let's say restaurants which do not allow pets, but who allow, let's say, service dogs? Would these battle buddies, these Northwest Battle Buddies, qualify as a service dog?
Absolutely, they do. Absolutely, they do. These dogs they don't just offer companionship. They offer specific tasks that they serve for their veterans to help them have freedom and independence in their life. And so, we go through the rigorous training that is required by the ADA so that dogs can have that stamp of approval. We have many of our handlers take their dogs on airplane flights. We've actually done that as an organization sponsored by GE to go back to the Marine Corps Marathon 2 years in a row with like 7 dogs. And so we make sure that our dogs go through the highest quality of training and our handlers go through the highest quality of training. So the outside world, anything they need to do, even in their jobs, we have many of our handlers, their dogs go to work with them and support them through that process. And it doesn't interfere in any way with their job or their place of employment. And, it's just really been a wonderful, wonderful thing. But, yes, these dogs definitely qualify and have all the rights given to a service dog under the guidelines of the ADA.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the specific tasks that they perform, I'll probably advertise my ignorance about PTSD here, but I know that I've managed to come out of a year in Vietnam without suffering from it. I'm very grateful to say, but these are people who are troubled. They sometimes can be spooked by circumstances that would seem very ordinary to many of the rest of us. I'm not sure exactly what these dogs do other than provide comforting companionship, unconditional love, if you will. What are some of the things that these dogs have to be trained to do? Because I don't know all the needs of someone suffering from PTSD.
Sure. Well, in a practical sense, a lot of the dogs, they do also help with some physical as well as PTSD, but some of our handlers have, through combat, have gotten physical injury to where they may be blind on a side. So just even in a practical purpose, that dog functions as a barrier on their blind side. Also, our dogs are taught to brace and help some of our older handlers with balance. Plus, the dogs, almost all of our dogs, wake the veterans up from nightmares, or even out in the daytime when the veterans, they are experiencing a flashback, they're experiencing a trauma. And the dog has the ability to perceive that through the chemical imbalance in the body, and they interrupt that, and they get them out of their head into the moment of now. We've actually even had some of our videos when we've been filming where the dogs have left a down position, per se, when the veteran was being interviewed, and they get, extra emotional or uptight in talking about, their experience, where the dog will actually break the command and get up in their lap and lick their face and help bring them out of that. Those are just some small things that the dogs do. I say they're small, but they're so significant to the handlers because it gives them that support and that confidence to go out in public that they are going to be okay because they're not going out there by themselves. And the one thing about PTSD is one of the main symptoms of that is isolation. And the minute somebody starts our program, they move out. They want that service dog, and they want the hope that it offers them of a life of independence. They want that so much that they will immediately move outside of their comfort zone, and they will do for their dog what they won't do for themselves. I've had veterans that the very first time we go in public after training here on the property and learning how to handle, then our first trip out in the public is in the mall. Well, one of the first veterans I was with out in the mall, he had left me he excused himself 3 times to go to the restroom. And about the 3rd time I asked him, I said, are you okay? And he says, well, I'm throwing up. He says, I haven't been in a mall in 14 years. And I was so humbled at that moment because I just couldn't believe that he didn't, when I said we were going to the mall, he didn't say he couldn't go. He didn't say, can't we do something different? I haven't been in a mall in 14 years. He just said, tell me when and where, because he wanted what that service dog meant to him as far as his life, being able to graduate with that dog and moving forward. And that's just a small example of what these men and women will do to have these animals at their side, serving them day in and day out, because it does take them into a life of a hope of something that offers them, like I said, freedom and independence. It's the only way I know to say it, because one of the main symptoms of PTSD is isolation. Well, you cannot be isolated when you have a service dog. And not only do our handlers learn how to navigate their dogs, but they also learn how to deal with the public, because you cannot take a service dog, and run into a store and grab a gallon of milk really fast without somebody commenting on how beautiful your dog is, thanking you for your service, asking you questions about their dog, or wanting to tell you a story about their dog. And our handlers, not only do they learn how to handle the dogs, but they learn how to talk with the public and answer questions intelligently and get confident about that. And so they're constantly moving outside of their comfort zone from day one when they start the process with our organization. And so healing begins from the minute they sign that application, because that's when we require them to do what they wouldn't have done on their own. And so it's just really something amazing to see.
Yeah. More to come. We'll be back in a moment. Glad you're with us on the Jim Bohannon Show, as we have something that I think is a pretty good way to wrap up a Memorial Day, and that is to learn about NorthwestBattleBuddies.org. The availability of service dogs to help people suffering from PTSD and related disorders. Shannon Walker, the person behind this, as its president and founder. Are these dogs their dogs forever, or is this like a lease arrangement? You get them for a year? How does that work?
You know what? The dogs are theirs forever, as long as they maintain their qualification. It is our responsibility to ensure, since we are placing these dogs, that the dogs have a great life also. It's not just about the veteran, it's also about the dog, making sure that they are respected and they are treated the way they need to be. And so the veterans do need to stay within qualification. Plus, we do require within the first year that they actually recertify twice, so 6 months apart from their very first certification after taking their dogs home with them. And then after that, they have to recertify every year, and which means pass the testing. But they also need to stay, in stable housing and income, and have a way to be able to care for the dog. So, that's how they keep the dogs forever.
Now, this is not a government program, right? Do you get any government help?
We don't get any government help. Yeah. All of our funding comes from private donations and fundraising that we do, and third-party fundraisers that people will do for us and donate. Donate funds.
In other words, if somebody is trying to get their tax deduction ducks in a row, this would be a good place to think about sending money, because this would be tax deductible, right, to NorthwestBattleBuddies.org.
Yes. This would be a great place for them to send their tax deduction, yes.
Fantastic. Now then, although it is not a government program, it does not receive government aid, but my guess would be that NorthwestBattleBuddies.org does depend to a certain extent on government cooperation. That is to say, do they offer you assistance in getting in contact with veterans?
No, the government offers us no assistance. We got our 501c3. We've been completely independent.
Wow. So, all right, fair enough.
And it shows like this. It's the articles, it's the news articles that get the word out there, and our fundraisers that get the word out there to the veterans that we are here and that we want to offer hope. We want to say thank you in a significant way. And then not only that, but it's really important, I feel, for your listeners to know that everybody, there's a way for everybody to be a part of what we're doing if they love their freedom and they want to give back, because truly it changes lives. We always say that, what we do every day is we're working so hard to save one Northwest Battle Buddy. We save lives one Northwest Battle Buddy team at a time. And that is, go ahead.
Yeah, you're based in Oregon, right?
Washington State, actually.
Washington State, okay, but in the Northwest, hence the name. If there was a veteran with PTSD, let's say in South Carolina or New Hampshire, I mean, you would still work with them, right? You're not totally a regional organization, are you?
No, absolutely. We are across the United States. Our furthest veteran right now currently is Cody, Wyoming. He has a beautiful golden retriever named Gabriel from us there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What kind of dogs are they? I mean, the pictures from the website, NorthwestBattleBuddies.org, indicates a wide variety of breeds.
Yes, it is. We do get a lot of dogs from shelters, so we do work, with a lot of mixed breeds, but we also do have breeders like German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers, Labs, that they want to give back to our veterans also, and so they'll donate puppies. But we are not a breed-specific organization. It does not mean that we'll use every breed. But as long as the dog has quality of sound, social temperament, and is guidable, and then is 2 years old or less, because they have to be healthy, and they also have to be of a practical size that can assist the handler the way that they need to be assisted. So we do use a variety of breeds. I mean, everywhere from pit bulls on to So
it's pretty special program. And again, stay on the line. We'll speak off air. Shannon Walker, president and founder of NorthwestBattleBuddies.org.